China just shocked the world with what they're building, and the numbers are unbelievable. China deployed over 295,000 industrial robots, more than the rest of the world combined. More than 50% of global factory automation is now happening inside China's industries. And in 2026, their AI and robotics economy is already growing at over 23% annually, reshaping entire cities. Over 16,000 autonomous test vehicles are now running on real roads across multiple provinces. But the biggest question is this: how did one country scale the future so fast that the rest of the world can't even keep up? A future built quietly. If you look at global news, you might think technological change is happening everywhere, equally. But in reality, the pace is very uneven. China has entered a phase where entire industries are being rebuilt from scratch using automation and artificial intelligence. Factories are no longer just factories. They're becoming fully autonomous systems. In fact, by 2025, China accounts for more than half of all new industrial robots installed globally. That means if a robot arm is being added somewhere in the world today, there's a very high chance it's happening in China. But what's even more interesting is not just the scale, it's the speed. Because in many Western countries, automation is still something companies test. In China, it's something they deploy at national scale. And that difference changes everything.
The age of drones and 10-minute delivery. Let's start with something simple that everyone understands: food delivery. A few years ago, waiting 30 to 40 minutes for food was normal, sometimes longer if traffic was bad. But in China's major cities today, that idea is already starting to feel outdated. Because now, delivery is not always done by humans. It's done by drones. Companies like Meituan have already completed hundreds of thousands of drone deliveries, crossing the 300,000 delivery mark in real-world operations. And these drones don't just fly randomly. They follow mapped aerial routes, avoid obstacles automatically, and drop packages into designated delivery boxes with precision. So instead of waiting for a rider stuck in traffic, your food literally flies over the city and arrives in around 10 to 15 minutes. And this is not limited to big cities. In rural regions where roads are difficult or distances are long, drone logistics are becoming even more important. JD.com, for example, uses cargo drones capable of carrying between 5 to 30 kilograms of goods. People often describe them as pickup trucks in the sky, and honestly, that's not an exaggeration anymore. Because for some villages, these drones are now the fastest connection to the outside world. And once a system like this becomes normal, you realize something important. It's not just about food delivery anymore. It's about replacing traditional logistics entirely. Cars that think like humans. Now, let's move into something even more visible: cars. China is currently in the middle of one of the biggest automotive transformations in history. By 2025 and 2026, tens of millions of new vehicles are being produced with built-in autonomous driving systems. We're talking about cars that can already handle highway driving, parking, lane changes, and traffic navigation with minimal human input. In total, more than 15 million new vehicles now include some level of self-driving capability. But what's really changing the game is not just automation, it's intelligence. Modern AI-driven vehicles in China are now being designed to act like partners rather than machines. Some systems can respond to voice commands in real time. Others can plan routes, adjust driving behavior based on traffic conditions, and even learn from the driver's habits over time. So instead of thinking of a car as a tool, it starts behaving more like a digital assistant on wheels. And once you combine that with advanced sensor systems, cameras, radar, AI chips processing millions of data points per second, you start to see how close we are getting to fully autonomous transportation networks, not in the future, but now.
Trains that float above the ground. Now let's leave cars for a moment and talk about something even more futuristic: trains. China is heavily investing in maglev technology, trains that float above tracks using magnetic forces instead of wheels. Because there is no physical contact with the ground,
there is almost no friction, and that means extreme speed becomes possible. Some maglev test systems have already reached speeds above 600 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that's faster than most commercial airplanes during takeoff. And the real impact is not just speed, it's geography. Because when travel time between cities drops dramatically, entire regions effectively become one connected zone. Cities stop feeling distant, economies start merging, and the idea of distance itself begins to shrink.
Children growing up with AI. Now here's something most people overlook. China isn't just building technology, it's training people to live inside it. In many schools across major cities, children as young as 6 years old are now introduced to AI education. They learn basic coding concepts, machine logic, and problem-solving systems that connect directly to artificial intelligence thinking. And in some pilot programs, hundreds of schools are already experimenting with advanced AI curricula. So what does that mean long-term? It means a generation is growing up where AI is not new or confusing, it's normal. And that alone changes the entire innovation cycle of a country. Because instead of adapting to technology later in life, they grow up with it already integrated into their thinking. Robots entering daily life. Now let's talk about something that feels almost science fiction: humanoid robots. China is rapidly developing robots that can walk, run, carry objects, and even perform coordinated movements with human-like balance. Some models are already being priced around $16,000 to $30,000, which makes them far more accessible than earlier generations of humanoid robots. And these robots are no longer just for demonstration. They are being tested in real environments: logistics, retail, healthcare, and public services. At the same time, robotic dogs and AI-assisted machines are being deployed for industrial inspection, surveillance, and even public events. In some cases, these machines can follow humans, avoid obstacles, and operate semi-independently using AI vision systems. And this is where things become interesting. Because once robots become cheap enough and reliable enough, they stop being experimental. They become infrastructure.
The big question. So, when you look at everything together, drones delivering packages, AI cars driving themselves, maglev trains, robotic construction systems, AI hospitals, and humanoid robots entering daily life, you start to see a pattern. This is not a single industry transformation. It's a full system rebuild. And that leads to a bigger question that nobody can easily answer. What happens when one country begins adopting automation at this scale faster than the rest of the world? Is this the beginning of a global technological gap? Or just the early stage of a worldwide shift that everyone will eventually follow? Because right now, China is not just testing the future, it is actively building it. So if you enjoyed this video of what China is building in 2026, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Because the most important technological changes in the world are no longer coming slowly. They are arriving all at once. And most people are still trying to catch up to yesterday, while tomorrow is already here.